In this series, we're growing a Robinhood account from $0 all the way to $1 million, and I'm showing you every step of the way how I get there. So today in the account, we closed at $8,300. To give you context, we started this account back in November 2024 at $3,000. So this is where we're at today. We've been kind of battling back and forth so far year to date. We're mainly in grab and neo calls and shares, but now I'm starting to trade the account a little bit. We've been playing some Tesla calls. We're up 200% on these spreads. I also sold some 355, 360 call spreads today for 112%. We missed on these Apple debit spreads, but that was a pretty small position. We are still bullish on Apple going into June. I got $310 here. We're down 42% on those. We bought that before Trump announced 25% tariffs on iPhones not made in the US, but we've been doubling down on this position with longer dates for Apple. We bought some July dates. We're down 10% on these spreads, but I'm really hopeful because Tim Cook will likely negotiate some sort of deal with Trump to not only have manufacturing in the United States, but also in India and even potentially still in China. So he's really just diversifying his supply chain, which is ultimately good for Apple, as well as maybe receiving some sort of incentive from the U.S. government to create factories here. Then we still got Grab and Neo as well, but Unity, that's like the next big play. I've been posting a deep dive on that. We'll go a bit into that on this call, but these are all the current open positions. Hopefully Apple, Unity, Tesla, Grab, and Neo's kind of lagging behind. I might have to just start selling covered calls against it and trying to wheel it in this account because it's been pretty tough for that company. I think it's more of like a late this year or even next year stock for it to actually run. And then of course we'll see how things pan out with China and US trade. But let's just start with this setup that I'm looking at on Unity. Obviously Apple, well, I'll go into the charts here in a minute, but Unity is a big one because you have the Roaring Kitty, which was the big run on GameStop. GameStop ran last year. I bought in at $10, made multiple six figures last year playing GameStop. But now we're looking at Unity. I think Keith Gill, who, if you can see here, was up at one point close to $1 billion. This is 586 million. He had GameStop calls last year in June. But last year it got squeezed to the upside. Ryan Cohen and GameStop diluted shareholders and then it dropped again. So the Roaring Kitty, I think, has essentially dropped both GameStop and then he also bought Chewy in like September and sold it all in October. I think he's finally moved on and is trying to play Unity Software, which is like another gaming adjacent software company for game developers. And so I think that he's playing within the same realm. It's like what he knows, GameStop originally, and then Unity. Of course, he actually thought that GameStop was like a fundamentally sound company, which it's not. It was just a pure short synthetic opportunity where it got squeezed to the upside because shorts were underwater. There was over 100% of the float was actually sold short. And when you had the social media, which is like relatively a new thing in markets, plus all of the call gamma from just thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people buying shares, options, they essentially just squeeze the price so high. And so there's certainly the ability here with Unity, which is more of like a gamma play. It's not really heavily shorted. It's around the same short interest as GameStop today, but GameStop is also running because Roaring Kitty has deleted his bio on Twitter, which was about GameStop, as well as his unpinning his number one tweet, which was also about GameStop. He's also unfollowed Ryan Cohen and GameStop. So it seems like he might be playing into this Unity software. So this is what we're playing right now. He's posted a couple different times with different cryptic messages, which is kind of his go-to. He always posts in secret words and that's probably a way to just like avoid getting caught with like pump and dump schemes and things like that. It's just he's posting images or posting memes. But he has a hidden message here. The time was you. This was the Time magazine. The person of the year was you. And then you also had Rick James here. He's wearing a Unity ring. And then he posted another video with the U falling from this pizza shop while playing the song I Will Wait For You. So it seems like it's pretty clear at this point that he's been buying Unity shares and options. There's even a ton of call premium. As you can see here, there's been a lot of volume on call contracts showing up on the flow. There's a bunch of flow on 25 and 30 calls for June 20th, as well as December and January dates. The company itself actually is somewhat of a turnaround company at this point. It improved its cash flow last year quite a bit, so the revenue is not really growing that much, but they are becoming more profitable as a business, which is good for the long-term fundamentals as they can shore up more cash and have a better financial picture. They are also releasing Vector platform they actually started transitioning on May 7th. And that's just like an AI-powered ad tech platform for gamers. And that's going to compete with AppLovin's Axon, which had a huge success. And to give you a reference, Unity is only a $9 billion valuation versus AppLovin's $120 billion. And then there's a bunch of like really bullish analysts. Base case $28, bull case $35, blue sky $45 plus if it can close the gap with AppLovin. And then there's like a bear case, obviously, if this Vector platform fails to gain any sort of market share from AppLovin. But I post all of this in the Discord. So if you want to check it out, you can just join there and then read through it for yourself, as well as any other potentially other plays that I'm entering into. I've been talking a bit about Apple. Obviously, we've been really big on Tesla the last couple weeks, as well as we're still bullish on the market overall. But let's just hop right into the chart so I can give you an idea of the market, Unity, and then I think I'll take a look at Tesla as well because we're still playing that. So looking at the S&P 500, we did have a bit of a pullback. I've been talking about this upper trend line. So there's like some key trend lines here in the market. As you can see, this was the uptrend that was broken when tariffs were originally announced. We traded all the way back to 481 and we bounced from that zone. And then we pushed and reclaimed that trend. And we actually came back up and reclaimed even this trend for a period of time. But this was like somewhat of a bull trap. And I talked about the potential of this actually happening. And then we softened, we weakened, and we pushed back down to this bull gap. And this really started when Trump and China decided to pause all the retaliatory tariffs and negotiate and come to some sort of terms on a trade deal. So they walked a lot of those back. We formed this bull gap and we pushed higher. Now we've come back down and retested that bull gap, and that has acted as support. So bears failed to fill this gap, and it's bounced from there, right? So we traded all the way down to this 576 support level. We bounced from there, and then now we just had another bull gap, and that was because this red bar that you're seeing here was the EU tariffs of 50% that Trump was threatening because he thought that Europe was collectively against the United States. They weren't trying to make a fair trade deal. He threatened 50% to take effect on June 1st. And we had this gap down as well the following day. But you can see that we didn't quite fill this gap completely, but then Trump decided over the weekend to push it until July 9th after some positive talks. And now we have a double gap that forms. So when you have a gap down and then you gap back over it, that's what's called an island bottom. So everyone who is caught short down here is caught. They're going to have to cover out of their position. And then you have a stronger push to the upside because that creates buying pressure. So investors, participants are now FOMOing back in and pushing this higher. And what do you know? On the day, we came right back up to test that trend line. We rejected initially, and then look right here at close, we snuck right back over to reclaim it from a technical level. And you'll often see that as you get better with technical charts, finding trend lines, support and resistance levels. A lot of times the market likes to trade like right on the line, either on above it or below it. And those areas will act as like a magnet or like a fair value, which just makes sense, right? Because the market's constantly battling and trying to confuse as many participants as possible. And so us closing right on that line will, are we going to continue to push? Are we going to reject and go lower? That way, it's a lot of confusion for the next trading day. But nevertheless, this is really solid price action. I don't really see, this was kind of a healthy pullback. We're also forming like a bull flag that actually broke down and then reclaimed. So we had this breakdown and then we reclaimed it. And then you see that once it had that retest, it held. Then we had that really strong push. We came up to the top side of this, rejected, actually broke over it. And then this morning we were trading right around here. Once I saw it was starting the weekend, I knew that we were going to have a drop in the morning. You would just buy the dip and then we were going to have a rally all day because this was just a retest that was happening of this breakout. And so if you knew that, you could play SPY 0-day call options. Your target would be, there's like a 589 level and then this 591 level, which was the target where that trend line was. And so that would be like your extended target for the day. And so you can make 200, 300. I think this move was like a 10x bagger if you're able to actually time the very bottom of this. So knowing the trends, the charts, support, resistance levels, those areas and how price moves, if you just look at charts long enough, you'll start to understand how price behavior, how the market likes to try to trap people. Like we're breaking back down here. It's like a decent time to buy because it's early in the morning. There's a lot of volume. You see all this volume came in. Once you started seeing bullish flow, you could have even bought up here and just saw this breakout all day and have a trend day. Plus there's like some other indicators that I use as well, like up volume or looking at the VIX. You can understand how that's going to play out. So overall, SPY's in a strong position. We can push 595. That was a previous resistance level. If we can break over that, which tech is already over, so like this little bear gap up here, we're going to try to fill that. If we can fill that and break over this 595, then we got 621 cents above that and 602, even potentially all-time highs here if we actually start getting some trade deals to come through that Trump's been promising. And then I'll go to Apple, Tesla, then I'm going to go to Unity last just to give you guys like the best setup on all these stocks. I'll save the best for last. But Apple, it's been trying to get over this 213.64 level for a period of time. It's rejected that level 3 times now. We are still bullish on Apple. It came back down and it just keeps retesting, somewhat trying to form like an uptrend here. This 195.72 level has been like a brick wall of support. We keep bouncing from there. So I kept averaging down on our position. Obviously, we got unlucky with a lot of the news, and that's why we had this drawdown. But I'm thinking, we had a little gap up here. So bulls are starting to try to take the ball away from the Bears. We didn't quite fill this gap completely from the gap down last week. So Apple's still a little bit behind the others. Like Tesla ran crazy today. Made some good profit there. But if we can gap back up over this 201 level, which this 250 cent level has been a little bit area of a support. So you can see we've rejected there today, or resistance we rejected there today. But if we can gap up and over 201, that'll create like a mini island bottom. Then hopefully we can push. This has already been filled. So we're looking at trying to test more towards this 206.50 level, which is somewhat of a resistance level, but really this 213 level is what we're looking to break into and then try to push towards 220 and 225. So my targets haven't changed. I think we can get there. There's an event on June 9th where they're going to talk more about their AI strategy and probably some other products that they might be entering into next year with like foldable iPhones, robotics. So there's a lot of things that I like. Plus, Trump and Tim Cook might come to some sort of agreement, and then that's also bullish news for the stock. Apple's been beaten down. It's trailing a lot of the other Mag 7 stocks, so I'm really bullish on it because I think it's going to money's going to rotate all the flow, and then, of course, we're going to have a push higher. So Tesla, obviously, this one's just been like had a flag over a breakout point, reclaimed trend, breakout of the previous downtrend, consolidated in this range, had a couple moments where it looked a little iffy, but ultimately it broke above that 350 level that I was trying to get through. And then that 360 level, which is this key level I've been talking about for a period of time, as resistance, a breakout, resistance, a breakdown. So that 360 is key. We actually closed above it, but I would really like it to see, this area, right? If it can get over this like 374 to 378 supply zone, then it's certainly possible we could continue to push higher towards like 410 to 420. That's what I'd be looking at. There's still a little sneaky bear gap now that I'm seeing this up here. So this area is probably going to act as resistance. So if you are in Tesla calls, I have 320 calls. I also have some of those spreads still. I'm up over 300% on the 320 calls that I bought like back here. And then I also sold some 360s today for a nice return. But I do think that if we can get here, this is really going to be the area where you're going to want to take a lot of profit off. I'll probably be completely out of Tesla if we can get to this zone around like 393 to 404. And of course, they have the event supposedly in June about robotaxi, and maybe they'll flash some things about Optimus, which has been getting a lot of news. And now Elon's sleeping on the floor of the Tesla and SpaceX, Starlink. He's fully back in, and there's a lot of hype right now behind Tesla, despite them having a pretty awful amount of cars that they're selling in Europe. There's just like bad data on Teslas, but it doesn't really matter, right? Like everybody's looking, and Tesla's always been like somewhat of like an innovation Ponzi scheme in a way, where it's just constantly saying, oh, we're going to innovate this, we're going to do this, full self-driving that was supposed to be out like 10 years ago. Now Optimus, oh, we're going to have it all ready to go next year. Robotaxi, we're going to have like hundreds of thousands of robotaxis next year. That's probably not the case. It's going to be way less than that. So I'm probably going to be selling before the event, or if it hits these price targets, I'm just going to take profit. So I'm going to sell the news essentially. And then last but not least, let's take a look at Unity. Obviously, I just gave you the deep dive on the fundamentals, the hype behind the potential meme squeeze that could happen, social media, a bunch of apes just buying into this. But you can see that like the stock has had like some pretty crazy runs in the past, right? Like this is a 65% run that happened back in November. Then you had here up into the lead up of earnings, another 61% run. So this stock can be explosive. And that's what I'm really looking for, right? Like we've had this little move here. And what I'm hoping is this is just in a consolidation zone. We're kind of like forming a little bit of a bull flag here. This is also near that breakout point. So like here, this actually broke out of that downtrend, and then it failed to hold. But that was like all the companies in the whole market, right? Because of tariffs, this all sold off. But now we're kind of seeing the same thing play out, right? So we had one little leg up here consolidating. Now I'm hoping we get another leg up to the upside. So this is like a good 1, 2, 3 wave. You have explosive price action between these levels. And then on top of that, you have a potential squeeze with like memes and things like that. The key level here is going to be this 2436 level. As you see that it's been that area of support for many times. It's broken down that. So right now we're trading below it. But if we can reclaim 2436, hold that area of support, then you're going to see this 2847 level trade, as price is very quick, right? It moves very quick on these levels. So you're going to see 24 to 28 trade quickly, as long as we can hold that 24 level. These are my current positions. I have a lot more than that now. I've just been kind of throwing the kitchen sink at this stock. There's a lot of bullish flow on it still as well. So bulls are in. There's whales in this. Roaring Kitty might be in it. You might have apes start to just ape into this stock, buy calls, try to squeeze it. Then from a technical level, it's decent, right? You have this breakdown of trend. This is like another trend line to be careful around over 28. So like I have these price targets where I'm going to be scaling out of my position. Extended levels could be like 33, even all the way up to 42, 40 to $42. Hopefully that can all happen before all of my contracts end. Hopefully 24 to 26 can trade by June 20th. 33 would be like more in July. And then if things get really crazy in August, it could be $39 or $40. But this move could happen very quickly. And there's some decent volume that's been showing up on the daily. We had like a couple days where like price just went crazy. And I actually already like secured 100% returns on this stock already with some trades where I sold out early. But I'm thinking that, you know, I keep buying back in because the whale's not really leaving here. So I'm just trying to attach to that, and then hopefully it can play out for me. So a lot of these positions, it's like a waiting game, right? Like you're accumulating. This is an accumulation, and then you have that distribution where price breaks out, it goes higher. Then you have people either FOMOing in or selling out. Price either collapses or it keeps going if the momentum can sustain. So that's what we're really looking for on Unity. This is a really interesting play. It has a lot of potential. Obviously, it's very risky, very speculative, and this is always just an opinion. So play at your own risk, size appropriately, and use the proper risk management so you're not blowing out your account, but it's definitely worth at least somewhat of a gamble, and that's what I'm really doing in my account. I'm not putting all of my marbles in one basket. I'm just, being very calculated with how I am actually approaching this play. But that's it for this video. I really appreciate it if you watch till the very end. Make sure you guys drop a comment, subscribe, like, share with your friends. And if you're not in the Discord already, go ahead and join that. You can ask me anything. It's completely free. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace.